I'll briefly introduce both of them. So Olga Omelyanchuk has been working in the media since 2019. She is a special correspondent and managing editor at Reporters magazine. And she also leads the communications and marketing department at the foundation Come Back Alive that helps the Ukrainian armed forces. Olga graduated from the Faculty of Philosophy at Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, and she has been covering the conflict in Donetsk and Luhansk regions of Ukraine since 2014, so she has a lot of experience in conflict reporting, and she is a laureate of the Special Award in the National Competition of Special Reports and Investigations by the Media Development Foundation. So welcome, Olga, and can you hear us? Just say a few words to confirm that everything is correct, that I introduced you correctly.
Hello, everyone. Yes, everything is correct. Thank you.
That's great. I've heard that the traffic in Kyiv is quite bad today.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for making the time to join us. And obviously, no one here has anything, we are about you joining late. We are very happy that you are here with us. Most of us are joining from safe places. We are very happy that you found time and space to join us from Kyiv, from Ukraine. And our second guest today is Vasilisa Stepanenko. She is a Ukrainian freelance journalist and video producer. And she began working with the Associated Press Agency in January 2022, 1 month before Russia invaded Ukraine. And she traveled to Mariupol along with her AP colleagues to cover the brutal siege of the city. Vasilisa's work has focused on human rights and social justice issues. In 2023, she shared the Pulitzer Prize for public service with her colleagues from AP, Evgeny Malolyetka, Mstislav Chernov, and Lori Hinand for their work in Mariupol. And this team worked on the documentary 20 Days in Mariupol that recently won the BAFTA award and that is nominated for Oscars this year. I hope that many of you who joined today had a chance to watch this documentary. If you haven't, I recommend you do. It's a difficult documentary to watch, but it's very important to understand what happened in Mariupol and what horror and what horrors Russia subjected Ukrainian civilians to and has been subjecting already for 2 years since the full-scale invasion. So welcome, Vasilisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. It's so important, and I hope that it will be interesting for you. And I just add one thing that I'm already staff work for Associated Press, so I'm video journalist now. And
that's amazing. Congratulations, Vasilisa.
Thank you so much. So it's so important here to be here today, and I hope it will be interesting.
Yeah, it's really important to have, Ukrainians working as staff journalists in major international media, not only as freelancer or fixer. So that's really a major achievement and absolutely deserved. So congratulations again. And thank you for everyone who joined us today to listen to this important discussion. I encourage you to be very active with your questions. Please type them in the chat. I hope there will be a lot of questions today because I don't want to speak too much or ask too many of my own questions. I actually plan to, ask my own questions only for the first half of this discussion, and then hopefully you will all step in with your questions to our excellent speakers. So, let's start with you, Vasilisa, probably, and with 20 Days in Mariupol, because it's such an event and it's such an important story. And, I watched it in Kyiv several months ago when I visited, and I'm happy that it is now showing in so many cinemas across the world. In Oxford University Ukrainian Society organized a screening in Oxford just recently, and it's been shown in London, in many other places around the world. What do you feel about the success of this documentary? And I just watched also the clip from the BAFTA Awards when Mstislav Chernov was speaking and saying it's not about us, it's about Mariupol. Do you agree?
Yes, sure. I mean, for us as a journalist, the main goal is to tell the stories of just people about Ukrainians to the whole world, to show the truth to the whole world. And I remember being in Mariupol when we were under siege. It was already heavy shells and attacks on the city, and we were in the hospital where we spent a lot of time, and there were hundreds of injured and dead people. Among them were children. We were really, it was really important to us to be there and document this amazing work of these doctors and medics who tried to save lives of these people. And I remember sitting at night in this hospital and how one woman sit next to me and cried, and she said, like, no one can hear us. The world don't know about us. No one knows about us. No one will help us. And I remember that my feelings was like, no, we will try to show it to the whole world. Whole world will know about this. We will save you, and the whole world will save you. And now I can say that voice of these people are heard all around the world. And all of these recognitions on these big events and BAFTA, and now it's nominated for Oscars, means that voices of these people are heard all around the world. And it is our goal as a journalist to tell the stories and to save the stories forever, like, because, I mean, to not let the world forget about the stories of people who were killed, because this is the only thing we can do to have this memory of them. And now it could be in the history and will live forever. So, and we continue doing our work all the time here in Ukraine. I just came from my work today, and I mean, we will try to do everything to show the stories, to let people understand and feel this. And I think that in this case, humanity can exist if we can understand it, if we can feel it. And even when you're risking your life, it means that you just want to tell the story. And war just came to our home, and we as a Ukrainian journalists try to do everything to cover it and to show it to the whole world, even though we could die. But I mean, it's so important to us to do this work, and that now the stories of these people are known by the whole world. This is the most important thing.
Thank you. So, Vasilisa, you joined AP just a month before the Russian full-scale invasion started. Have you foreseen, being immediately at the center of events at such a such a short period of time? And also, as a young journalist, how was it for you to report about one of the most brutal things that happened in this war from Mariupol? What was the most challenging, and did you feel the support of your colleagues?
Sure, like before full-scale invasion, I worked as a local reporter in Kharkiv. It's my hometown. So I never had the experience of covering war because it was in other regions. And I was just a young journalist. I just graduated from my baccalaureate degree. So I had no time, unfortunately, to graduate from the master degree because war started. And I remember I started working as a local producer because we did our work at first in Kharkiv when there were a lot of news that full-scale invasion could happen. And we tried to find the characters and stories of people, how they're reacting on this news, how they're feeling, and to research it, if it could happen or not. But on that moment, it was really difficult because no one really believed that it could happen, even me, because my family lived in the neighborhood that is just 30 kilometers from the border with Russia. And we really didn't want to evacuate or went somewhere because we really didn't believe that this could happen. And yeah, when we started working with AP, at first we worked in Kharkiv, then we went to the front line in the Donetsk region. It was my first experience working on the front line. And I remember I saw the first destroyed house in the Donetsk region, and it hurts me so much because I never saw something like this. And on that moment, I didn't know that I will see it like hundreds of times in the future, unfortunately. And on the 23rd of February 2022, we decided to go to Mariupol because we already felt that something could happen by the news that were around the world and from the Russian statements. So, and we understood that Mariupol is a big target for Russia because they already tried to take it in 2014. And we came to Mariupol just 1 hour before full-scale invasion started. And of course, I never thought that I will see something like this in my life. And as a human, as a journalist, no one was ready for it. And of course, the war started for me when I saw the first death of the child in the hospital. It was so close, and I never saw death so close to me. But in the same time, we continue reporting because we understood that we need to show it to the whole world. And every day was worse and worse and worse because shelling were at first like somewhere outskirts of the city, but then it was a city center. And then there were like hundreds of injured inside this hospital. And sometimes we even didn't know how to shoot it because there were hundreds of them. But then doctors allowed us to see it like inside the hospital, like all the injured that killed people, and there were even no space in the morgue, and doctors just collected all bodies inside the hospital in the room. And I just had feeling that it's like a hell. I don't know, like every day was worse and worse. And I remember like all these bodies, and my feelings was like we will be next one, yeah, if something will happen. And but we tried to do everything to cover it and to show it. And then situation was much worse when we lost connection. Then there were no water, electricity, no food, and humanitarian catastrophe happened. And it was a really hard operation from the side of journalists to find a way to and show this and find some internet to send it and try to send the information to the editors. But it was our decision to stay there because there were no other journalists in the city. But the worst thing happened to people because they lost their loved ones, and there were hundreds of them. So of course, I felt a huge support from my colleagues, Mstislav and Evgeny, because they were much experienced and they covered war in Ukraine since 2014 and in other countries. So they at least understood how to hide and made you safe. And they give me like a regular rules how to react on the shellings and something like this. But then when airstrikes happened all around the city, it was really hard because every minute you were in danger. And even it was danger to move through the city, our car were damaged. And so it was a really, really hard operation. But I, like me personally, as a young journalist, first time in that situation, I just tried to support people to understand what is they feeling and how are they and how we can help, how we can share their stories in which way. So I think work helped us to survive because we were focused on this also, like even though we can woke up and understood that there is no electricity, no food, but we woke up and we took our cameras and go and shoot the interviews through the hospital. And then, of course, in the end, we went through 15 Russian checkpoints went out from the city, and we hid all our hard drives, cards, computers, cameras in the back of the car. And the Mariupol policeman, Volodymyr, he risked his life because he put us into his car with his family and took us out. So we were in danger all the time because in Russian media also already after bombing of maternity hospital, they wrote that our team of journalists are informational terrorists and we are doing fake news. So they tried to share this narrative. So we were scared also that maybe they could find us or catch us to the captivity. And of course, all time it was difficult and dangerous. But I think all Ukrainian journalists become war reporters on that moment. And everyone tried to do everything they could all around Ukraine because we really didn't understand that it will be full-scale invasion. We thought like maybe if war will go on maybe somewhere in the east, but it was all around Ukraine, and all Ukrainian journalists risked their lives to cover it all around Ukraine, in Kyiv, in Kharkiv, in all regions. And I mean, it was a difficult situation for everyone. So we just tried to do everything we could.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for also mentioning, how you were leaving Mariupol and how Russians tried to discredit you already in your work and lie about what happened there. We'll come back to this topic of disinformation a bit later. I would like now to turn to Olga. Olga, so you have more experience in reporting from the conflict zone. So you reported since 2014 and you continued reporting after the full-scale Russian invasion in 2022. Can you tell us a little bit more how different it was in this first 8 years of the war and in the last 2 years of war? And, maybe share some also stories that you are most proud of that you covered in this period.
Yes, first of all, I will use from time to time my telephone. It's just for helping me with translate. And
yes, sure. I can help also with translation if you need, no worries.
Okay, thank you. I will try and let's see how it will be. So yes, I'm covering Russian-Ukrainian war from the beginning. So now it's more than 10 years. But when I was my first experience, it was in April 2013. And it was in Donetsk region near Slavyansk. And I remember my first question to military guys, they were with the big guns. I think it's 152 millimeters. And I asked them, will you use it? Really? It was my first question. And they just said, we don't know, maybe yes or maybe not. And yes, it was also regular Ukrainian army, but the guys, they were without helmets, without bulletproof, so just simple guys with in t-shirts, like civilians, but with big guns. So it was my first experience near Slavyansk. I remember that my first shelling was maybe in summer near Debaltseve. It was just a few days after the occupation of Debaltseve, and I remember that I was surprised that first thing what I saw in the city after the occupation. So it were civilian guys and also our military guys and a magazine, and there were just ice cream and I don't know how to explain, cold chicken, frozen chicken, and that's all. And people, they were so happy because one guy, he said to me that I didn't see even this food for a few months. And for me, it's a great that I have this opportunity to buy something. And also after full-scale invasion started, a few days before it started, I was in Mariupol also, but then I left and I was in Kramatorsk. And I remember that in the night of full-scale invasion, of like a few hours before it started, I was messaging with my friend from intelligence, military intelligence, and also with other guys, military guys. And they said that we are waiting, maybe at 5 or 4 o'clock or something like this, something will start, definitely. And I said that, okay, I'm in the Donetsk region, so I will be here. But I didn't understand that it will be in other cities. I was thinking that maybe in Donetsk and Lugansk region. And when after a few hours I understood that this situation is around from other cities also, so I decided to come back to Kiev because it's my hometown. And I think first months, yes, I was in Kiev. And after this, I started to go to frontline from to other cities, Kharkiv region, Donetsk region. And unfortunately, I wasn't in Luhansk region because when I started moving, it was already occupied.
Yeah. And do you remember, like, I don't know, can you tell us about some stories that you covered in this period that are somehow most memorable and that you're most proud of?
Yes, one of such story is about Dave Young. He is a British guy. Now he is 58, I think. In 2022, we were working together in Kupiansk. It's Kharkiv Oblast, Kharkiv region. And he was just trying to evacuate civilian people. And we were working together, and it was important for me because, it's hard to be just a journalist in Ukraine right now, and not to be like a proactive person. I'm journalist. I'm just watching. I'm just documenting all this. And
before he became an astronomer, this is after he became an astronomer.
Sorry, there is someone who hasn't muted their mic. Please mute their mics because you interfere with our speaker. Continue, Ola.
Okay. And it's really difficult for me to be just a journalist right now. And when we were working with Dave Young, he was asking civilian people in Kupiansk to leave the city, and he proposed them just go with me, take your documents, your passports, and let's go because it's bombing and shelling right now. Let's go. And not all of them were ready to leave their houses because it was just maybe a week after the occupation. And they, even if their houses were destroyed, people were really scared, and they didn't understand fully what is happening. And then I know that it's not like maybe other journalists will say that it's not just journalism, it's more like activism, but I started to ask them to go with us. And we evacuated in that day 3 people, 3 old people, 1 woman and 2 men. And I'm proud of this because it's not just journalism, it's also helping my people. And when we were going to the bus, Dave asked me what it was. You just should write something and take photos. And you were asking them to go with us, what it was. And I said that they are my people. So that's why I'm asking them to go with us. And now I know that women and men, they are with their families abroad. And other old guy, he is also in a safe place with his sister. And I'm happy because now in Kupiansk, it's like a really frontline city. And I'm proud of this, that I could help them.
Yeah, and in the chat, there is a link to the story. Thank you, Darina, for sharing it. So everyone who watches or listens to us can just click and read the story in English. That's great. Thank you, Darina. Very interesting what you mentioned, Olga, about, this desire of like also help and make a difference immediately. And as a Ukrainian journalist, you felt that you can contribute in other ways, and you also work with with the charity foundation that helps the Ukrainian army. I'll ask about that a bit later. But with this, I would like to ask you, Vasilisa, you are working for an international news organization, but you are Ukrainian, you are covering events in your own country. How hard it is to kind of, I don't know, maintain all the journalistic balance, objectivity, and hold yourself from helping, but only like, are you constrained only that you only have to report? If you were in a situation like Olga, would you be able to do something more than just document what you're seeing?
Of course, as a journalist of the international agency, we have the standards, and our work is to document the events and everything that happens around us. And of course, as the Ukrainian, I think you have much more deep feelings as, for example, international colleagues who are coming at first, because it happened to you and to your family, and all of us lost our friends, our relatives, and like everyone lost someone. And of course, you can't be aware of this and all time you feel in pain, and this is like your personal feelings. But I think it even helps us to understand it better and to tell the stories much deeper and with more feelings and understanding. And of course, we are working all the time in the teams with international colleagues who are really like, they give me a lot of experience of the international perspective of work for international agency. And of course, they are giving you new perspective of some stories that you maybe don't saw before. Like they sometimes come into Ukraine and saying, oh, why like it's happened like this or like that, and you didn't understand it before because you are living here all the time, and you sometimes don't see some scenes that new people can see. And a lot of our colleagues from other countries, of course, they felt and went through all the many stories with us. And in the end, when they live in Ukraine, they always want to come back, and these stories always happen, like they're still in their hearts. And of course, many international colleagues told us that it's the most dangerous war they ever covered, because here is no one is protected. I mean, journalists are now targets as military, as civilians, and as everyone who is now in Ukraine. So you can't be safe. And yes, I had some situations, for example, when, and I have this all the time, when, for example, I'm working with a really hard situations and characters who are going through, I don't know, the worst situation in their life. For example, they lost their child, or they were tortured, or they were raped. And of course, I mean, at first, I always trying to feel this person and to support this person as a human, because when this person came through this hard experience, of course, he needs support, as every one of us needs support. And I remember I had some situation when I did interview, and for example, the character started crying. And of course, I will take my camera back and I will just, I don't know, support this person, or hug or just talk. And this is a really sensitive scene, but I mean, you should be always like to save your humanity inside, because only with humanity you will be able to tell the stories with this understanding and empathy. And I think that empathy for me become I think the biggest scene that I'm using all the time in our work, because this is just really hard feelings, and this is all humans around us. Also in Mariupol, for example, we had situations when, for example, some people need help to walk or to evacuate. And yes, we always try to help, for example, like old people to walk from the destroyed house, because there was no one who could help them. And usually, like our emergency services medics are working really fast. So even we have airstrike in Kyiv, the rocket attack in Kyiv, we could come to the place and there is already like firefighters, medics, and many people who can help people. So in this situation, of course, journalists are just covering this and trying to share this picture and catch this moment to let the world understand what's going on and let understand people around you. But yes, of course, we had this situation, and also our international colleagues, not only like Ukrainians, had the situation when they tried at first to help the person, because the humanity is in the first place, I think, always.
Yeah, thank you. And our event today is entitled The Role of Independent Media in Framing the Understanding of Ukraine. So from your experience, Vasilisa, do you think that the understanding of Ukraine, of the country, of the people, of its history, of its culture, has changed since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion? And what's the contribution of journalists to it? Do you receive the feedback from your audience to kind of, make these conclusions that people really understood something more about Ukraine, that they've discovered something new thanks to your work?
Of course, I can feel that now everyone in the world understands what is Ukraine. Because before, of course, we always heard that you're from Ukraine is somewhere in Russia. Yeah. Now no one will say it, because Ukraine is Ukraine with their people, their culture, and this is independent and free country and really different from Russia. And I mean, the journalist work here is so important. At first, the most important thing that we are doing when we are working on the places of these attacks or the tragedy, of course, we are trying to document these war crimes. And for example, when we were in Mariupol, we were only one journalist, but we just showed the small percent of what happened in the city, because then we met a lot of people who said us what was in the other neighborhoods that we can't go because of the attacks. And there were a lot of Ukrainian cities that were under occupation and hard attacks that then that was occupied, and there were no journalists, and no one will never understand what happened in this area, because there were no pictures, no videos, so people can't see what happened. But I heard the same stories that happened in Mariupol, for example, in Izum. And then we just saw this huge mass grave in Izum, but at the same time, we didn't see what happened there when it was under occupation. So I think this is the main goal, to show this, and war crimes, human stories. And now we're focusing on that, but in the same time, it gave the world understand who are Ukrainians, what is their values, what is the culture of Ukraine, who are these people. And of course, they can see it in the brave work of the medics, firefighters, policemen, soldiers, and the part of journalists here is so important, because they are showing these stories to the whole world.
Yeah.
And of course, I saw how it's changed from, for example, my colleagues, because they didn't know about our culture, and now everyone who is coming, they are so happy. They really like our people, our culture, and they really like our food. All the time they come and they asking me, we want a borscht. And now everyone understands that borscht is Ukrainian food. So, I mean, of course, it's
Well, hopefully, everyone understands that. Thank you so much. Well, before turning to Olga, I want to encourage everyone who's listening to us to ask your questions in the comment section in the chat. Please do not hesitate to do that. We'll be happy to address them. If there are no questions, I still have plenty. So, Olga, a question to you about, Ukrainian media. So, obviously, the work of international media we covered with Vasilisa, and the contribution that she makes to the world's understanding of Ukraine. But what do you see the main kind of goal of Ukrainian journalists and Ukrainian media at the moment? What motivates you? What gives you the energy to go and work for your audience inside Ukraine?
What motivates me, and I have a story. Not a few months, I think a month ago, I was near a borderline. It was exchange between us and the Russian side. It was, I think, for the 50s, yes, exchange. And I was trying to record in something by my telephone. And when I saw the first bus with our guys, they were returning home after maybe 2 years in the Russian prison. Also, there were guys from Mariupol and Azovstal, and they were coming. And one of them saw my telephone and asked me to call his mom. He just say, can I call my mom? And I said, yes, of course. And I gave him my telephone. And after this, I understood that how will I record something because I have no telephone. And then other guy asked for calling, and one more. And when I saw photos from this exchange, my telephone was.
So it was your phone.
Yes.
We all saw in those videos and photos.
Yes, and it was difficult for me, because I have such opportunity for the first time after full-scale invasion started to be there. And I was also documenting, but then I said, okay, Ola, now you're more just a Ukrainian person, not a journalist. So just try to talk with somebody, try to not understand them, but try to understand them. Yes, and maybe this and such stories like this, it's like my motivation when I see something really with the big light, really important. And even if I hadn't got an opportunity to talk with somebody for a long time, I was talking with guys, our guys, but it was not like for an hour or something like this. My opportunity was just maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And it's cool for me to see such things like this. And also, yes, Ukrainian journalists, we are also started to use more English language because we know that it's important to talk with our audience abroad. And we in Reporters, we have online magazine with the long form journalism, and also we have a print magazine. And last year, for the first time, we get like a magazine in English, a photo book or a photo magazine. We put there 155 photos, main photos of big war on that period. And why 155? Because it's the most popular caliber what we get from our partners, West partners. So that's why we decided to use this number of photos.
Yeah, I was very happy to receive a copy of this magazine and to bring it to my colleagues here at Chatham House in London. So yeah, it was a really great issue. And thank you for doing that. Thank you, Olga. And you know, a question that a lot of people asked in anticipation to this event, how do Ukrainian journalists balance the need to report on positive stories to keep the morale up with objective reality, which is not always positive, and especially, you know, the role of independent media in that, because there is a United TV Marathon in Ukraine, which basically reports only the good stories. But there is a demand also and the public interest on behalf of Ukrainian society, the people, to hear, you know, the truth and what is really happening. So how do you as Ukrainian journalists approach that dilemma?
I think that we must to show all the sides. And first of all, we must talk about the truth, even if it's not such good as we want to see it. For example, I was working in the Donetsk region with guys who were collecting our dead military guys. And it was really hard. And I was asking myself, can I show it? Can I talk about it? Yes, for sure. And it's not just can, I have to show this side also. Yes, it's difficult because when you see the bones and then you see surname on the jacket, and you just use your phone and you have internet because of Starlink or just mobile internet, and you saw this guy from Facebook, for example, and you see messages from his family, from his wife, that they are trying to find him, and you know for sure, or mostly for sure, that probably it's his body. Yes, you don't use this information in public, but for you it's really difficult to understand all this. And if you saw not just one body and 2, 3 or more, it's really difficult. It's bad truth of Russian-Ukrainian war and about other wars also. But we have to talk about this also. We have to show it for Ukrainian and for people from other countries also.
Thank you. Vasilisa, there is a question for you from Yaroslava, and Yaroslava asks, there is an opinion that foreign correspondents... Oh, Yaroslava, would you like to actually read your question? Why am I doing that? Please unmute yourself and read your question.
Yeah, so there's kind of an opinion that foreign correspondents, despite being distant to the field and to people they are working with, they still have more legitimacy in the eyes of international audience. So I was wondering do you think it is true? And have you felt any change in attitude to Ukrainian journalists from their foreign colleagues after February 24th?
I felt my way because I met first time with my international colleagues after we left Mariupol, and then we came to Kharkiv straight in April 2022, already with our international photographer in the team. And I can say that we all time worked as a one team, and there are no borders with, between us, because I will repeat that it's like also depends on your human values and how you understand people and how you can feel people. Sometimes even you can't understand the language, but you can understand the feelings of these people because you just like trying to understand it. And all our colleagues are really experienced because they went through many wars, and of course they maybe like not the same, but similar situations in other countries. But I mean, they always try to show this the whole picture to the world. And here was in Ukraine, and all time I worked with my colleagues, with international colleagues in different groups, and I could say that all the time we were like in the same level. But yes, I tried from my side as Ukrainian, as I understand language and like understand the, for example, area and where we're working. And for example, when we worked in Kharkiv region, it's my hometown, so I tried to let them understand this picture, yeah, how it was before, how it is now, how I'm as a local resident feeling now, and what happened to my friends, to my family, because even though we worked in some places, I also found out that, for example, in Musgrave was my friend, and I tried to let them understand how it is and what it is to make this context for them. And like always they understood, and we continue worked. And I mean, I didn't see this difference and never felt it, because I think we are people with the same goal and same value, and we are working for one like international agency. And I felt there maybe even sometimes like in the family, because in the hardest time of my life they give me a hand and give me this chance to continue doing my work. And I think it helped me a lot, and my colleagues always supported me, and I had only such great feelings about them. But also we met a lot of other journalists all around Ukraine, and it's not usually like, it depends on the format and where they're working, how and what is their standards and values. But I mean, yes, sometimes it was difficult to understand why they doing this way and that way, and sometimes they didn't do like the ethics things that we did, and I didn't understand it. But for my colleagues who I was worked in the team, I always tried to let them understand the context and everything I can.
Yeah, thank you, Vasilisa. I have a question for you also about, some people are talking about so-called Ukraine fatigue. Have you noticed that it has become more difficult to pitch stories from Ukraine to AP? Is there less interest in what's happening in Ukraine? Do you observe that?
I can say that, of course, first year of the war was a lot, things happened, and there were a lot of attacks, and we were all around the front line trying to cover everything we could, and we had a lot of team on the ground, and we had much more colleagues there in Ukraine, and also we had a lot of international media, like the whole world international media is here in Kyiv, I remember. And this year, I can say that yes, now there are less of correspondents, international correspondents working here in Ukraine, and less medias I can meet that I met before in the front line, but they still here and they're still working. And from my side, from AP side, I can say that we are still doing a lot of stories, and everything I'm showing, or like, for example, I have idea, I'm going to my editor, and they always hear me, they always helping me to do the story, and I'm
what kind of topics are resonating now? Like what kind of stories are most interesting now for an international news agency?
I also can say that when like Hamas-Israel war happened, our bosses even we had a call and they said that yes, now there is other war happen, but we will not forget about you. We'll still working as we worked, and we still have a lot of opportunities to go to the front line and cover the stories. Now I can say that we are working mostly of investigations. We're now trying to investigate what's going on in occupied areas, because I think now no one can see what's going on there, because yes, of course, there is no journalists, no international journalist who could go to the occupied area and report, no international organizations who can come here and investigate.
Or they can go on propaganda trips that the Russians organize, right? Like some Russians took some journalists to Mariupol last year from Italy and other countries to show their propaganda, basically.
Yeah, so we are now trying to investigate it from people who are coming back from occupied areas now to Ukraine, and there are crazy stories, I can say. People are being tortured. They can't study, they can't speak Ukrainian language because they will be in the basement in the prison. The passportization of the occupied areas is crazy now because Russians pushing people doing these passports just to change their citizenships, and this is war crimes that is going on right now in the middle of Europe. And I mean, we are trying to focus on this because many people all around the world asking me if what's going on in the occupied area. When we are doing screenings of 20 days in Mariupol, people asking what is going on in Mariupol right now. And that is what is going on right now. And we are trying to show it, but it's really hard, I can say, because we have only people who are coming in, or we can have interviews with people who are there, but it's really dangerous for them. So we need to be really careful with this. And of course, visually, as a visual journalist, it's really hard visually to show it. So we are doing new scenes, trying to create new scenes. I mean, like digital projects, like 3D models, or the sketches of the situations that people went through, to let people all around the world understand it also visually, because now we are living in the social media world when the picture, the visual part is so important. So we are even doing like new ways of journalism to show all these horrors and war crimes.
Yeah, like a project that you released in the summer last year about all these Russian secret prisons, torture chambers that they established on the occupied territories. I think that's an example of this use of different methods. If you don't have physical access to these territories, to these facilities, you can still report on it using infographics, using data.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and of course, we are still doing the coverage of all around Ukraine. We are all time working on the front lines because it's now a really difficult situation. You can see that Avdiivka was taken by Russians, and this is now a really hard situation for soldiers. There is not enough ammunition, and we should be there all the time to cover the stories and to be in the field. So, I mean, we are working all the time, and I don't feel that we are working less. Yes, no, not so many international colleagues coming there, but there are some still coming, and we are here as a local staff working all the time.
Yeah, based there and ensuring the continuity of this coverage. Yeah, thank you. Olga, another question that a lot of our, the public, the audience asked is about the relationship between the Ukrainian independent media and the Ukrainian government. How difficult it is to, maintain the impartiality, the independence, and to just do journalism in the way that you think is the right way to do.
I think that we have some problems with access to frontline. From time to time, for these 10 years, every half year, I think we have a big problem with success. And that's the main thing about war correspondent and about how to keep our independence. So we are reporters, so we are doing just long form journalism. We are trying to have reflections, no political things. We don't give and don't write news here in Reporters. So maybe it's less difficult for us, like to be independent here in Ukraine. But I think that yes, for other media, it's a challenge, but not like a big challenge. If you want to be independent, you can use ways and just be independent. And also, I wanted to say about previous question to Vasilisa about journalists. I had also funny situations with foreign journalists. We were working together, like also a team, not like me and other journalists, a big team, or I think it was like 5 or 6 journalists. And they were asking our military guys how you use it, how it works. For example, we saw cover, I don't know, is it the correct word, cover of a javelin or in law, I don't remember. And our soldiers, they were using it like a shower. And it was like, wow, you use it like a shower. It's just
like a package of it, or a shell, like an empty case, right?
Yes. And from time to time, I heard such question, how it works. And it's okay for me as Ukrainian, because it's a normal thing. We will use it more and more. And it was funny and difficult to understand for them.
Thank you. So last chance to ask your question in the chat. To everyone who is listening and watching us, we have about 5 minutes left. So please, if you haven't asked your question, go ahead and do it. And probably my last question to both of you would be on the countering Russian disinformation about Ukraine, because we see also with this like lessening of the focus on Ukraine in international media, other wars erupting in other parts of the world, the Israel-Hamas war, the attention is fading away. And also with less journalists present physically in Ukraine, there is less coverage in the international media of what is happening. And some people abroad even start asking questions like, is the war still going on? Like, is it still not over? And here is where also Russian disinformation and propaganda steps in, because there can't be a vacuum, right? If the journalists are not there or there is less coverage, propaganda still works full time, and especially in countries of the global south, where access to Russian state-controlled outlets such as RT and Sputnik has not been restricted like in the Western world. So how do you see the role of journalists in countering disinformation, and is it something that the journalists actually should care about, should do? How do you see it?
Okay, yeah, I can say that first time I saw real Russian disinformation when we were in Mariupol, because after bombing of maternity hospital, we didn't know what's going on in the world, because we had limited connection, and all connection we just used to send our footage. But then we got the message from our editors that Russian media already wrote that these journalists are making fake news. All these injured women, pregnant women, they are actresses. It's fake news, and they are informational terrorists. And that moment, I was shocked, because, I mean, how it's possible? I just saw it by my eyes, and now I can see that they're writing that they are actresses. So for now, I think we need to be really smart in the way what we are watching and reading, and we need to clear all information, to research all information, to see both sides of the information. And now of our world of social media, of course, it's so important to follow all correspondents who are doing this reportings. For example, all of our team have the Instagram profiles, like Facebook, that you can follow and always confirm this information through our profiles. For example, I'm always open to, answer the questions and to share this. I'm always trying to share this information in my personal page, because I know that everything I'm doing, it's my work, it's my face, and I'm always trying to show the right like the facts we are going and we are documenting. So I mean, now we need to be really, really careful with information because it's a huge world of disinformation, and I really went through this and can say it. And in the same time, like about attention, and I think everything depends on the journalist, how we will find the stories, because there are a lot of stories that we didn't cover yet, and a lot of going on, and how we will show these stories, how we will work on this. And I think this is a big challenge for journalists now, how to do these stories and find this kind of stories or topics that we can share to the world to let them understand what's going on and pay this attention. So I mean, this is now a huge challenge. So maybe we need to change formats to see it, to find new perspectives of storytelling. And of course, I can say, for example, with our film, now people who are going to the cinemas and or saw this film in the internet, they saying, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about the stories. I saw some images somewhere in news and then it disappeared. So I just first time saw this story, but it happened 2 years ago, and people just now understood that what happened. And I mean, for example, documentary we did, it's really helped to make this story forever and make it and document it in the history. And I think it will never disappear now. And we need to think about this perspective, a new way of storytelling to keep attention on this.
Olga, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I agree with Vasilisa that we will have a huge challenge with this. But I think that a good material is a material when you just, after reading this, you have no question to facts. And we, like Ukrainian journalists, we also use a scene. We have to double check everything. And even if I'm just talking with the civilian people, they can think by one way, but the truth way is another way, and I have to double check, and I can't change their words, so I will use it for sure, but I have to have like if I have to double check everything. And also I think that this year Ukraine will be in international news a lot because of war. You see about Avdiivka, we were talking, and now in Kharkiv region, it's like escalation in near Kupiansk, and also on the south part of Ukraine, we have a difficult situation. So I think that this year we will talk about Ukraine in the world a lot of, and that's all.
And
Thank you.
I just want to add that in this war also there's disinformation. There are a lot of disinformation in social media, in TikTok, in Instagram, in Facebook. It's like really crazy. I mean, sometimes I can see some video like they doing to discriminate Ukraine, or for example, relations between Poland and Ukraine. And then you are going to this profile and can see that it's just empty, and you understand that they are bots. And there are a lot of Russian bots everywhere. You can see this in the comments everywhere. And like disinformation on the news, on the facts and everything. And there are a lot of this in the social media all around the world. So they not just doing it in Ukraine, they're doing it in other countries. So it's also, we need to be really careful with and to keep our eye, and of course to talk to older generation about this, because sometimes my grandmother can call me and say, oh, did you see? It's the end, in the end, like they will surround it Kharkiv. And I said, where did you read it? She said, oh, I saw it in Viber. It's like one messenger, yeah. And I'm like, please don't believe it, because who posted it? Who did it? Who is
Yeah, that's called media literacy, increasing media literacy of the population. And of course, the work of journalists is also very important. Thank you, Vasilisa and Olga. So very quickly, 1 minute each. Last question from Yevhen, who just jumped in the last moment with his question. And he's asking, what has changed in the ways the stories about the war are presented since February 2022, based on your experience of creating those stories? So as far as I understand, what type of stories you report, how has that changed, and the way you report them since the beginning of the full-scale invasion until now? Very quickly, each of you.
Maybe for me, when full-scale invasion started, it was really a lot of news, and even if I'm working with a long form, so I started to not to do like a news journalism, but it was a lot of news. It was like my focus and my topic. There's something happening, and I'll there, and I will report about this on social media of our media, or like in print version or online version. Now it's less, and we are focusing on a long-form journalism, and but topics are, I think, the same. If we are talking about war, it's nothing changed. It's like persons, their lives, tragedy of this war, and so on.
Thank you, Vasilisa.
For us, like, of course, as we are a news agency, we are focused on the breaking news, and the start of the war, there were a lot of breaking news every day. And we had a lot of teams in other like regions, and we worked like every day. I even had no weekends for the whole year. Like, I just worked every day on the breaking news. But in the same time, we did like much more deeper stories. For example, we did investigations. Was really, really important, because I can see that like breaking news that is happening, like people not paying attention on this really a lot. But when you have long-term investigation, there this information can go through many medias, and people are paying attention for this. And of course, we did a lot of features. I mean, we try to focus on human feelings and this kind of stories that is really important. And now I can say, yes, we are also more focused on long-term stories, because there is likely no breaking news every day. For example, no so many rocket attacks as it was before. So we had more time to focus on long-term stories, but we're still also trying to keep our eye on the front line and have our team all time in the field, in the front line, because it's so important to be there. And of course, doing more investigations, because now there are a lot of topics to investigate and to let this understand. And also sometimes we are still doing features. For example, for 2-year anniversary of war, we did one profile of woman, for example, who came through occupation. Her husband was prisoner of war, and he just came back. And I remember we got a question like about positive or negative stories, but sometimes the story of one woman can change many times, because I followed these characters for 2 months, and I remember how I called her, and I just wanted to spend one night with her child and her, and she said, "Oh, my husband is coming back from captivity. I just saw him in the list." And then next day I just came to meet her husband with a baby for the first time under 2 years of his prison. So I mean, sometimes these stories are changing, and it not depends on you, because you're as a journalist just following your character. But I mean, sometimes we even have happy ending, like people are meeting and families are together and they are alive, and still life is still going on.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Vasilisa. And I think it's a great note to finish our conversation today. I want to wish that most of the stories that you have to cover this year are positive, that there are happy endings. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Olga Omelyanchuk, who is a special correspondent and managing editor at Reporters magazine, and Vasilisa Stepanenko, who is now a staff journalist of the AP Bureau in Kyiv. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about journalism in Ukraine and how it shapes the global understanding of Ukraine, and also how it impacts the audiences inside Ukraine. Thank you for everything you do. And thank you so much to Oxford University Ukrainian Society for organizing this event. Really, really important and interesting. Yaroslava Buchta, who is the president, thank you so much. And I give the floor to you now to conclude.
I would just say a couple of words. Thank you for all these insights and all this talk. And I feel like it's extremely important that these messages and your work and some things that you are saying, they sound here. So along with the stories that you are publishing to the whole world, and along with the stories that the whole world gets to see due to your work. So thank you very much for sharing your time with us, and thank you very much for everything that you do, and thank you very much to our amazing moderator, Olga, today. So I hope it was like a fruitful discussion. Everyone got a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to ask about. So I just wanted to say quickly that we were recording this presentation. So I think we will publish it in our social media. So if anyone has any objections, please do contact me. I think you have my email. Yeah, so thank you everyone very much, and thank you for coming. And hope you have a great evening tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
I
Perfect.
also wanted to thank all of you. Sorry for my English. If you have maybe questions, message me on Facebook, and thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also want to say that you can always message us or ask question if you need, because you are like future, and this is great that you decide to to have this profession, because we all can change this world. And I mean, thank you so much for this and for this important conversation and your attention. This is so important for us that you are paying attention for our work and supporting us.
Thank you.